All right, welcome back to episode 31 already of the Reinvent the Hunt podcast. And to be honest, I'm not really sure when I'll end season one and start season two. We're just going to keep rolling through the episodes because I hate to like reset with episode zero for season two or just continue with 32 all the way up. But trying to decide that as we move on, it doesn't really matter. But if you look at our YouTube channel, you'll see season one is where we're at right now. Tonight, we have a really interesting story on here. I was reading a little bit of background on this company. It's Pete Gutowski of the U-Slide Bow Holders. So welcome, Pete.
Thank you. It's good to be here, guys.
Can't wait to hear your story. I know Kenny knows you a little bit from a hunting situation. Your story would kick off with tonight. So Kenny, what do you have down there? What happened?
Well, I'm a Missouri flatlander, I guess I'd say. So I got go hunt with Pete. I guess it's been 3 years, Pete.
Yeah, I believe it's been 3 years already.
3 years, and went to South Carolina. He's got a beautiful place out there. And he took me to a piece of property that the first morning we went out hunting. He goes, it's a little climb. And by the time I got to the top, I was pretty sure I scaled Everest. And like I said, we ended up sitting in this stand. And the whole time Pete's telling me, he goes, yeah, we've seen a bear here and somebody shot something over there. And they usually, I'm just trying to breathe at this
Yeah,
point.
no doubt.
I'm struggling catching breath. About the time we catch my breath, Pete goes, you ready for breakfast? Oh, okay. So it was a good time. Pete's great. His wife is phenomenal. He's got great kids, man. He was just a pleasure to be with.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear the story. And as he's talked about that climb, it reminded me of stories I've heard of actually climbing Mount Everest, where like people will die climbing it, and they just kind of have to leave them there in their frozen chunks by the side of the pass. I don't know if you have that going on there or not, but I get it because some of these hills around here, even in Ohio, it's like, man, they're non-glaciated and they're all over the place. So I understand your predicament there a little bit. Pete, welcome. I know Kevin's excited to get into this a little bit tonight too. I kind of want to hear the background. I know we're all interested in what this product is and how it came about. And I think I always wondered what the genesis of where these things came from. So can we hear your story a little bit and kind of where it came from?
Yeah, it kind of came out of necessity. I was in 2009 on a bear hunt in northern Quebec, Canada. And they had baited sites, but the brush and everything was so thick, they just cleared out, a 10-yard wide, 25-yard long little path out of the brush and put the stands at one end and the bait site at the other. And really, you have no idea that the bear is even coming until it steps into this little opening.
Kevin knows that. Kevin's laughing.
We just talked about this on the last podcast because I just got back from Maine on a week-long bear hunt.
Like
you don't. Yeah, it's really thick, and the bears are silent. So
yes, yeah. Well, I was sitting in a ladder stand. I had my bow hanging on a hook hanger, up above my head to my left. And the bear came out, and I reached up to grab my bow, and of course, close enough, the bear saw me and took off. And I was like, well, I can't really do that anymore. So I just kind of held it in my lap for the next 4 days until I wound up shooting my bear.
And that's annoying. I totally get that one. Understand.
Yeah.
I was trying to cut down any movement I could and not make any sudden movements or, anything.
Yeah.
So came home from my hunt, explained what was going on with my wife. She also hunts and bow hunts. And she's got tired of me complaining about it. And she goes, why don't you just go out in the shop and try to make something then? Because I looked and I tried to find something that would screw in low next to my seat. So, kind of hold the bow by the bottom limb and, just have to move my hand rather than moving my whole arm above my head or anything. Couldn't find anything. She got tired of me complaining and says, go make something. So we went and made something, and did a couple, 3, 4 different designs. I kind of liked it, and it just had pivoted at first. And we made a U shape out of it to be able to hold the bow by the limb. And I think at that time I cut off an old wooden lag bolt and kind of welded it into a piece of material just to try to get something, what I wanted.
I love that.
Anyway, we finally got something that worked kind of good and, showed it to her. And she's like, I really like it, except one thing. She goes, you made it so you could reach your arm out that far. I said, yeah, because for me. She goes, well, what about when I'm sitting in your stand? I have to reach way forward to get my bow out of the thing. And my first thought was, why are you sitting in my stand? Why are you in my stand? So then she kind of came up with the idea. She goes, can't you make it slide so it can, move shorter so that, not everybody's got the same length as arms as you do. So this way I could reach it. So we went back to the drawing board, made a few more different designs, and finally came up with pretty much what is still today we're using. And that's how it really got started. Then my buddy saw it and I made one for them, and and then they told some more people and made some for them. And I showed it to the guy at our pro shop, and he's like, "That's really cool. Can you get me one for up here?" And I'm like, "Well, we're doing all this. Maybe we should try to do something with it." And that's kind of really how it started. It just came out of necessity.
Man, that is one awesome story. I know, like, from your background, and you said one key word to me there, and honestly, it was necessity. And I think, people out there that just in general listening or watching, I hope they understand, like, to go from necessity to building your prototypes you did to then producing this thing and selling it. Man, that's a huge jump. Going from a prototype and messing around to then now you have a company, a small business or a large business with this. And I don't know the scale of your volume you do right now, but that's phenomenal. Like the fact that you had a necessity, you saw a need, and then you rectified that need.
It also helps that we actually own a manufacturing company for a real job, so we have all the stuff out in the shop to go make stuff. So
that's perfect.
It helped a lot.
That's like the same thing I just ran into when I went bear hunting in Maine. Is like the bears are silent. It's only a 20-yard circle where you can see them, and I couldn't get a shot with my bow because I could not reach up and get it. So this like really like hits home. Like I want to actually get one now.
And their eyes are they pick everything out so well.
They do.
I don't want to say they're on the side of their head. They're a predator, right? So they're more forward, but they pick up peripheral motion really well. I know, like if you watch or heard our podcast, Pete, I know I did the same thing in Newfoundland on a huge 400-pound black bear. I was dumb and I saw him pop out, and then he circled around, and then when he came out 20 yards, I should have been at full draw, and I wasn't because I didn't want to move, like you said. But then I burned myself that flashing red LED on the GoPro. Man, immediately saw that in turn. Immediately.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they're pretty smart animals.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They're not dumb.
No.
Now, do you, as far as the production of these, how did you go from, okay, we might sell this to, okay, now we're a business? How's that work?
It was a lot of, kind of back and forth with my buddies about it and think if we could do anything with it, or, and talk to my wife and she it's not something that we needed to do, but I felt that there'd be a market for it if we did it. I felt like there would be people out there that would have the same experience that would be looking for something like that, so that we could kind of market to that, because everything was the one kind of hanger that everybody's used for forever. And it really stunk screwing it into the tree. It never held. The screws always broke off. So I tried to improve on somewhat of that design, as well as advance it to what it is now.
Yeah, I love how the fact it's adjustable. It's really cool.
And the screw itself was a big process. I wanted something, like I said, the first time I used a lag bolt and welded it into a piece of material, and it just didn't work right. I wanted something that was kind of like a wood screw, per se, that would bite into the tree, and it would be easy to start, and you don't have to pre-drill holes.
Absolutely.
And we played with that screw. Gosh, we played with that screw probably 6 or 8 months, testing different things out and trying them out and seeing how they worked. And it took a long time to come up with with the screw design that we do have now. The rest of it was kind of easy, but the screw was the biggest part of it.
I wish people out there knew the amount of time, you talk about like a 5-point game camera design, or you talk about your product and how many thousands of hours it takes. Like you talk about the screw, going into the tree, whatever pieces it's going into. I myself, I don't know if you guys use these, they're old school, but I still use them, I'll be honest. The screw and tree steps, you screw them in all the way, like their L. And most people hate them because it's so much effort. You get down, you can't get them in, you're fighting the thing, and you're sweaty and beat up by the time you get in there. I always actually now I hate them so much, especially when we do a hard piece of tree. I take a flipping power drill with me who to use them, and I free drill a hole and then screw them in because I don't want to fight that thing. And usually now I'm using the tree sticks. In most respects, a little safer to do that. But still, there's some spots where my dad and I use those screw and steps, and those are annoying. If they get dull, you can't get them in that tree at all.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah, there's a couple poor trees at the shop back in Connecticut that have probably 1,000 holes in them from us trying out different screws and seeing how they worked and that sort of thing.
That's awesome. You put that amount of time in designing even something like the screw.
Yeah, and then once we got it developed and we started playing with it, before we even had a website or before we even decided on a name or what we were going to do with it, we were already finding other uses for it. We figured out pretty quickly that you could, take the unit, slide it, collapse it up short, jam it in the ground, and use it for a ground blind holder or while you're out in the yard practicing rather than putting your bow on the ground.
Man, I love that. I love the ground blind
thing. Right away, it became multi-purpose. And then, we've branched out into other things. We use it when we go camping to hold hot dogs over the campfire, jam it into a piece of wood or, marshmallows or we try to find all kinds of different uses for it. So it's not just relative to hunting.
So do you have an adaptation for like a well, I'll say a beer can holder or soda can holder? Is there an adaptation? You put a little can holder in there for your blind?
It will hold the various wine glasses or Pilsner glasses.
Yeah, up there like a shoot a bear.
It will hold a bottle of beer.
Yeah,
or a bottle of. So we just kind of played around with it like that and so it's not just a hunting device.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
I know I really get frustrated in the turkey blind every single year. So I need to get one of your products because I even thought about it. It's funny you do this because I was like, I need something to shove the ground in front of me that has a U to hold the bow, the limb. And I hate laying it down. Every year I lay it down and the arrow's all wonky and it's hitting stuff. Yep. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's really frustrating.
It's funny you mentioned that because like I've said before in this podcast, I don't do a whole lot of ground blind hunting, right? So I plan on taking my daughter for the first time this Friday evening in a ground blind. And I'd been thinking like, what am I going to do? Like my compound bow, like where am I going to just lean it up against the ground blind?
It's
like,
annoying.
Like how are we going to do this? And I usually have like, obviously my bow hanging in the tree, the arrow's already knocked ready to go. I'm like, how am I going to do all this in a ground blind? I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't hunt out of ground blinds, especially with my compound. So it's
exactly
gonna be difficult.
And then you're sitting up.
I kind of failed Pete. If I would have known that, I would have sent you guys some U-Slides because I've got several. So
I'm gonna get one after this.
Is there a ground screw, a stake? It goes in the ground like a short. Is that how it works?
It's the exact same unit.
Okay. You screw right in the ground.
Yeah.
You slide it short. Make sure you got your U where it is and stick it in the ground. Use it all the time.
I love that. Because then like Kevin said, my other option is I'll lean it up against on the bottom cam, and it's all shade tree style, leaning somewhere. You see it go over your peripheral.
I don't know.
Right at the worst time.
Yeah.
But here it is here.
Yeah.
So you can just collapse it up, turn it this way, jam it in the ground, turn the U this way.
I love it.
And then stand your bow up in it that way.
And you know what's crazy? It's insane, Pete. Like your design is awesome because like I'm sitting in my ground blind this year. In my brain, didn't know your product existed, right? I thought of the same exact product you have in your hand, sitting ground blind. Like, why is there something out there like a stake that goes to the ground with you? That's all. That's incredible.
You're just 15 years late.
I know. I know.
You know what's funny though? It's like I have one of those just the holders that clamp onto my climb on. It's the same hooks where my bow just rests.
Yeah.
But I never liked it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like it, but it's so close to you at that point, right? You can't even like move your left arm.
Yeah.
That's like perfect. I'm so glad you came on.
Well, that's
going to make it so much easier.
When you move in your stand, now that starts to with everything else.
Exactly.
Completely correct. That is so spot on.
I've always loved having it like right there next to me instead of hanging, but it's always been too close because it just clamps to my climber.
Yep, totally right on that.
That's awesome. Now I can just get one of those and stick it in my bag.
What's
that?
You guys
go to Jurassic?
No.
Oh man, you need to.
When was that?
Pete's there every year. That's in
Yeah, Deer
That's in-
Essex
that's in-
is a big fundraiser for the Deer Essex Park in Cambridge, Ohio.
Cambridge. That's right. Okay.
Yep.
That's
And it's their big fundraiser for the year. They give away, I want to say it's close to like $4 million in prizes at this point. And we're one of the vendors that go there. They put on big concerts, by big name bands on Friday and Saturday night. And it's an outdoor show. And it's all hunting related stuff. And it's just a good time.
That's fantastic. Another question I have for Pete, just talking about logistics of how you do this, I'm interested a little bit. When you get an order in, you have a website, correct?
We do.
So do you do direct to consumer products from your shop direct to their mailbox or their house?
Yes.
Or how do you do that?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Well, let's go back we'll go back a little bit to manufacturing. This isn't something that I've farmed out to China. I make every one of these. I turn every one of the screws. I mill every one of the U-slides. I drill the holes. I powder coat them in-house, reassemble them, package them, and then they sit on the shelf. And when we get an order in, I'm the same guy that pulls it off the shelf, prints the packing slip, puts it in the box, and sends it off.
Man, that's awesome. That grassroots thing is super cool to hear.
Yeah.
The whole process, and that's very parallel to what I do. I was actually just in the basement a little bit ago before this podcast, magnet pressing some magnets in back of barrels. So I'm down there trying to get magnets in the barrels, and got 500 of those before the podcast, and I understand thoroughly, what a small business takes to keep going and get up and running. And then social media is another animal, right? Like everybody knows, Kevin knows that, Kenny knows that. In today's world, you're not taking an ad in a newspaper, you're producing content, you're reaching across the world with a keystroke of your phone.
Right. Yeah, social media is where it's at now. Because when we started, I wanted to be in the magazines. They still had all the hunting magazines back then. You want to be in the magazines, and
Sure.
Unless you have a deep pocket, it's expensive to be in a magazine.
Absolutely, right. Totally respect that. Now back to Kevin. I have a question for you too about ground blinds. You hunted their ground blind, Kevin? Not yet.
I've hunted out of ground blinds with a firearm, but
okay,
not with my bow yet. No.
I got 2 tips that I've been burned on myself, and I watch other people do.
Yeah,
so.
I'm ready to hear them.
Okay, so tip number 1: when you draw the bow, it takes a lot more space than you think it does in that blind to draw that bow.
I'll have to test it.
The back wall is always right by your back arm. So watch what you're doing.
I'm gonna wind up hitting my daughter in the face.
Exactly. Yeah. You gotta draw. You're like, all right, Eric, clear out.
Right. Like just duck.
Yeah. And then the second thing that I've watched happen actually out of one of my ground blinds, and I'm not going to tell on Lee Hartzler, but I did the same thing. Watch where your arrow is and try not to clip a window, because he had he had a Clovis turkey foot. I think it was like 2 years ago, and he went to send one to the bird, and man, it was like I'm looking at that arrow before, like I'm like in my eye, like it looks awful close to that, but whack right in the corner of the blind. It just took the thing out. So you got to watch how that happens.
Yeah,
too. I've done that before, both those things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely it's going to be an adventure, especially because like she's not even 6 yet, so getting her to sit still and be quiet. I mean, she is all into it, like asking me questions, nonstop asking me questions. So I'm excited to take her. But do I have high hopes? Not really, but it's not even about that. I'm just so excited that she's excited. Like I just ordered her hunting clothes because she didn't have any, and I just like getting her involved. I'm like, all right, do you want to? I'll grab my hunting clothes that I need to wash, and we'll grab yours. We'll take them down. I'll show you how to wash them in the scent-free everything. That's cool. And she's all about it, man. I can't wait.
You guys ever feel that? I know I've been there before too. Even recently, my son talked about the second deer he shot with a bow last year, and I'm like, you get that dad or parent guilt of because you love it so much. You really want your kids to take the outdoors to heart and get out there and hunt with you and love it to death. But you also don't want to just shove them into it just because you enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? So you kind of got to play with that. Like, hey, expose them to it, see what they think.
I'm curious to see, because like I said, she's all about it now, but I'm curious to see like how it's going to play out sitting there and stuff like that. But I would never force her to go. Like, obviously it'd be cool because that's what I love to do. So
lots
we'll see
of snacks,
how it goes.
man.
I'm not going to force
it. Little Debbie's.
I know. She's going to have
that's
what I was just about to say. She's got her iPad with headphones, and I said, you got to leave the ear off closest to me. You got to leave that off. Only have one earphone on, and you got to whisper.
Yep. And then you need a good nap time mixed in there.
She don't take naps anymore. Maybe
maybe-
she'll take
maybe-
one on the drive to the property.
Well, maybe you need a nap time. I can
Phew.
understand.
Yeah, I could definitely use a nap time.
Yeah, I know. When I got with my dad and my son, heck, my dad's got a bigger snack bag than anybody out there. He's hauling his whole pack full of all kinds of trees out there.
What's in there? A grunt call? Nope.
Oh,
Little
no,
Debbie's.
yeah, granola bars, little Debbie's, mints, yeah.
Yeah, we don't
You
need
name it,
that.
yeah. So Pete, I guess one question I have for you, another one is, what's the most surprising challenge you had with this product and continuing to produce it, sell it? What surprised you all the time?
It's the marketing and getting it in front of people and explaining to people how it works. Because like, oh, I don't need one of those. I have one of those. I hang my bow just fine.
Yep.
You do, but how many times you've been busted by a deer reaching up to get your bow off your hook? Or the deer's coming in and you can't get your bow because the hook's in your cam and you're jiggling your bow around because you can't get it off of there because you don't want to turn and look up at the bow.
Right.
That's so true.
You kind of go through some life experiences with people on things that have happened to me, and then they kind of relate and they go, okay, I kind of see where this would come in handy. Because everybody's going, why do I need another one of these? I can go to Walmart and buy 3 of these for like $4.
Right.
You know, the ones that everybody else uses.
Well, I forget, am I right? Am I trying to think about this wrong? I'm just going to throw this out there. Your product, if it's on the ground in a ground blind, you actually just have to reach up and grab it, handle the bow, and pull back a little bit to release it, right? But I've often
not really release it, just
pull back a little bit to let it go, right?
Slide it out because it's really resting between the U.
Yeah.
So you want to just pull back, stand it up, so you can just slide it out.
But I'm going to say why I had a problem with that in the tree with the hangers, because in the tree, the hanger, a lot of times we're hanging it from the top limb and you got to rock that bow forward. And it's a really awkward motion. And like I said before, you just mentioned it. Sometimes I'll put those prongs, if it's in a tree or limb, you try to find a place in the riser or somewhere weird in the cam or somewhere janky, if we're going to slack a better word. And then you have a deer come in, like you said, I'm up there like blinking it around and flanking, and I can't get it off. And it's really dicey to do that. So I understand your idea of it.
That, or another advantage is, with it down low next to your seat, if you have to shoot to your left or wherever you're hanging your bow, you don't have to duck underneath it sometimes, because I don't know, when I used one of the other ones, I tried to, when I sat down, be able to reach up and get it off the hook without having to stand up because I didn't want to move. But then if I had to stand up, if the deer went the other way, now I got this thing
right
that's
right
here at my eye level.
Absolutely.
And I'm trying to duck underneath it or try to shoot around it.
Yeah. Man, that's a great point. All great points made. I know I've mistaken before when I had a crossbow in a tree stand and you got that crossbow drawn and you don't realize how close that tree is beside you and you whack it on the release and everything recoils back. It's not a good situation either. So there's all sorts of things to consider that I don't think people often look at when you're in the stand, like during the sequence of the hunt, what might happen. And that's a good idea with that.
I'm actually excited to get one, to be honest with you, because I just switched like this year to one of the ones that fold up like yours, but it hangs up top.
Yep.
Like you said, it's like never holds the bow the right way. It's like it's all over the place, and by the time you're trying to reach up like this to grab it, you might as well just do a jumping jack.
I have been busted more times trying to stand up by deer that I never heard come in.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I loved about
this.
It's
more times than not.
Yeah. Well, I spend a lot of time standing when I'm in a tree stand because if I don't, I get lazy. But I still put my U-Slide down by the seat, right? And it doesn't matter, even if you're standing, you can easily get that without looking. I mean, it's perfect. It just really is perfect. And even if you raised it up a little bit to where it's just a hair above your seat, which is what I do, because it works perfect for me if I'm standing up or sitting down. It's just, I grab the hand, the grip and just pull it back and I can get on. What I had to practice was learning to shoot from sitting more than standing. Because when I was young and dumb, I was always getting busted standing up.
Yeah.
And so it's been a perfect design.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, like I use the hooks now attached to my climber, and I like the hooks a lot, the way it holds the bow, but like I said, it's just too close. So that'll be awesome.
Yeah, and you're right, Kevin, because there's nowhere you can put them around the perimeter to get any further away.
Right, you're just hitting your cam with your elbow.
Yeah, if you put it in the front, it's sideways, so you got to get it out of there. That's also awkward. So, Pete, what's one of the most fun hunting stories you have, or give us something a little bit different here? Kind of moving on beyond products a little bit. What's one of your favorite hunting memories, or a hunt you want to go on, or just something exciting that you want to share with us?
Let's see. It had to be 2020, 2020, what the heck was it? 2021, 2021. I was able to go to Colorado on an elk hunt.
Oh, awesome.
So
awesome.
we went, one of my friends and I, we drove out there, spent, a few extra days to get acclimated, drove around, went in on horseback. So it was a 4.5 or 5 hour horseback ride into a spike camp, and then horseback out every day, climb mountains, horseback every night. And the scenery was just amazing out there. Got close a couple times. My friend Bill did get an elk. I did not. I was nice to let him shoot. I was waiting for him to shoot because it was his side and he wasn't shooting, and I was like, that bull takes one more step, I'm letting this arrow go. But he finally shot. He shot a nice bull, but
that's really cool.
That had to be one of the best hunts that I've probably been on. The most exciting hunt. Just listening to the elk bugle like that, it was just, it's kind of sends chills through you just to hear him bugle so close.
Can't imagine.
I can only imagine.
Kevin's mentioned that before, like how loud that would be so close to you.
Yeah, that would be insane.
Absolutely. Not to change the corner here a little bit, but I do wonder, about your thoughts on the future of hunting in general. It's been in my mind recently. Of course, we're in a really pretty crazy world in country at this time, and there's a lot of political climates going on. I won't get too far into that, but obviously the outdoor industry and hunting is closely related to what's going on. And I see, how do we get into this? I see a lot of communities not understanding hunting anymore. I see a lot of kids, their sports is great. I love it and played it and had fun. But like, it seems like the hunting culture, we're losing a little bit because kids are so wrapped into the iPads and the digital stuff. And what's your opinion on it? What do you think?
I agree with you. They spend too much time on the screen and not enough time outside.
In reality,
when I was a kid, we didn't have any of that. We went outside and played till it got dark.
Right.
My mom said when the street light comes on, you need to get home. And we found stuff to do outside, and we're always outside in nature. And kids today don't do that. They'd rather sit in their room and look at their phone or their tablet or whatever.
No doubt.
And I think that, that generation is losing out on a lot of opportunity to go be outside and be able to do things outside and enjoy nature. Even if they don't hunt, just go outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't second that enough. I know, my own son, same thing. Just like my own son, I'll watch him watching another person playing a video game. He's not playing the video game. He's on YouTube watching another person playing a video game. And I'm like, well, I don't understand that. Like, why don't you go outside, buddy, and help me with this, or go outside and ride your bike? Or it's difficult, even as a parent. I'm saying this as a person, living through it right now. To get the kids, and I know Kevin, you can jump in here too, and Kenny, your kids, their background. What does it take? Because I know it's challenging in today's world.
You gotta it is challenging. I know we talked about it before. Like sometimes it's, they get screen time, but we do have to limit it, and then we set to take it away. Like you do something, like do something else. Like even if it's not like totally outside, my kids aren't having screen time. They're gonna play games. They play with each other really well. They do dolls. It's two girls, so they play dolls a lot and stuff like that. But it's not even just about like going outside. Just do something else other than screen time. Like I think us as parents, like we have to just limit it. Like I'm not here to just be your friend and be an easy parent, like just give you the screen all the time. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like it's not. So.
And I think that also honestly needs to be united front across the family. Like, if you're united front, you're providing these opportunities for your kids to understand, like, hey, it's not that technology is bad and these things, devices are horrible. I know people, in all respect to them, they don't let their kids do any of it, and that's their choice, right? But what I'm saying is moderation and everything. Like teach your kid how it's useful, but also going outside is pretty cool. And I found is like even my son, he brought up the memory of hunting the other day, before anything to do with the iPad. So I know that stuff with him. I mean, he brought
Right.
that up first.
Yeah, I think just taking even like we'll just try to do like fun things outside. Like it's not even just like go play outside by yourself. Like we'll try to go to the park and do fun things outside with them and different stuff like that. So my kids like love being outside. It's hard to get them to come inside.
So
That's awesome.
my next to youngest daughter's got 4 kids, 3 boys, and they're all old enough to get out. The youngest is 4 months old, but they come over. I mean, the oldest one, he can't, I can't keep my crossbow out of his hands. I mean, that's what he wants to do, is just constantly shoot the crossbow. But that's what it is. You get them, once you get them interested and get their faces out of those screens,
Right.
they take to it naturally. I mean, you make it fun. You make it fun. You get them hooked, and once they're hooked, it's just about reeling them in at that point. But you got to make it fun. You got to
make a game out of it.
They're
Like
kids.
everything we do is like a game.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know I brought that up specifically because we had a campfire this past weekend, and we just did some s'mores. We did the rendition with the I don't know what you call them, those fudge round cookies. Man, those are dangerous. But anyway,
I think I gained weight looking at
that. Baby, those were so good. It was awesome. But I had my girlfriend and her son here, and my son was here, and they're out there just beating boys, and my daughter wasn't here at the time, but they're sticking sticks in the fire. They're trying to roast everything. They want to set them on fire and throw them back and forth. And like, I just sat there and thought, this is the starter route. And as a dad and a parent, you sit there, you go, this is real life. And as much as we're on technology now, guys, talking to each other, which is cool. And it's great to have this conversation. Like, those are the moments in my life that I know I'm going to remember down the road.
Yeah. I'll also try to make it a point to not be on technology myself. You know what I mean? Like when I'm with my kids, and my wife has to remind me sometimes because I'm on my phone a lot doing the business, my regular job, everything. So a lot of times, like I'll just put the phone down and just leave it. Like I'll get back to people's messages. It's not a big deal. But when it's kid time, when I get home, and like we sit down and eat dinner every night as a family. No electronics, no phones, no nothing. We sit there and talk about our days, and then we'll make a game sitting at the dinner table of like just anything. So I think I have to limit myself as well. Like I can't say no screen time and then be on my phone all the time. So it starts with us. Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. Well, Pete, thank you for coming on. I know your product is really awesome. It's a U-Slide Bow Holder. What's the website for that?
It's www.u-slide.com.
Okay, and everybody check these out. They're great for ground blinds, and also great and versatile for tree stands, ladder stands, whatever you need them for. But thank you for coming on tonight. Shared a lot of insight and also some fun stories, adventures. So thank you again, Pete.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure being on here.
You guys have a great night.
All right, you too.
Take care.